Hey, so I'm going to talk to you about my game. It's called Shun the Non-Believer. Um, this is for my Emerging Technologies course in the Mobile Gaming Masters of Full Sail. Uh, Basically, this is on my Android tablet here, and it uses the accelerometer to control a sphere on a plane, and there's a few boxes as well. The objective of the game, as I try to keep this focused, you can do it. It's not wanting to focus. All right, well, we get there. The objective of the game is to take the sphere and use the accelerometer to steer it, and create or have the sphere push one of the blocks off because it refuses to wear texture. And let's see if I can get it to some place where I don't get a crazy, awful reflection. And it might be hard to do. It might be really hard to do. Let's see what we got here. I think that's the best it's going to be. Alright, so let's start it. Oop. Tap the button there. Okay, so already going forward a little bit, you have to tilt it straight up and down is 0 on the Z. So as you can see, it's rolling around here. I have some lights, I have a plane with a texture on it, and my sphere has a texture on it, and so do 3 of the boxes. Those 3 boxes all have rigid bodies. You can collide with them. Trying to hold it as steady as I can. Oh no! On the bottom I also have the accelerometer, what values are being recorded there. All of the textured game objects have a mass of 1, and as you can see, if I go hit this one, it's quite a bit lower. I gave it a mass of 0.1. Oops, don't fall off the edge. So it would be a little bit easier to hit, but let's go ahead and see if we can't knock this guy off the platform as I try to do this with one hand. Sorry, I should probably get a better way of recording this, but currently one is not available to me. But basically, give it little pushes there and try not to fall off in the process, as I've almost done about 3 times now. Getting there, getting really close. As you can see, I have a directional light as well, which I'll show a little bit later when we look at the code. And that's applied to all the objects. You can see the shadow from the sphere is casting onto the black as well, which is really cool, the cube. Alright, okay, so both of them went off, whoops. So if the block goes down before you, you still win, thankfully, otherwise it would be really difficult. It says, you win, the blasphemy is purged. You can't see that, but it's unimportant at this point. And then this little button down here says return to main menu. So you give that a little tap, and then you're back at the main menu and you can play again. What we're going to do is we're going to lose real quick, which should be really easy. Just run right off there. And you got a you lose there, and it says heretic. Should have made that a little bit bigger, but so it goes. And there we go. Return to main menu again, and that is Shun the Non-Believer. Alright, let's look at some code. Okay, here we are. This is my Unity project, where we have the main menu scene right here. I have 3 other scenes. One of them is let's open up the main scene real quick. Main scene. So this is where everything is. Oops. I have a few buttons here. So these are goodies. These are just these 3 blocks right here that in a multiplayer scenario, perhaps someone could play this cube right here and try to push these off as their objective with a much higher mass, and then you'd get this sphere with maybe a slightly lower mass, and the sphere would try to push this cube off here, while this cube tried to push all these 3 off. Anyway, that's just something where it could expand. These all have textures on them. So that's goodie 1 through 3. Baddie instead of enemy. That's this block right here. The player is the sphere. I have a directional light somewhere. I dragged it way out of the way somewhere. Let's see. Yeah, it's way up there. So then I have a camera which is attached to the sphere in a script, and I'll show how that works. And then the plane, which is just a plane for everything to rest on that doesn't really do anything else. So let's go ahead and look at some code. So basically what we have here is the camera script. What it does is, since the sphere is at origin 0, 0, we can basically pass in the player, and we can say offset, well, this doesn't have to do with the player yet, but offset is equal to its current position. So its current position away from origin, we can basically just keep that as the offset. And what we do every frame is we check where's the player at and add the offset, and that's where we want the camera to be. So pretty straightforward and simple. Let's look at the main menu next real quick. This is just, I have GUI text, a few of those on the main menu that don't really need anything done to them, but I create a button on the fly with, that will always be 1/5 of the screen width, 1/5 of the screen height, and this code just centers the X and Y, and we create it here. And you know, this is the label for the button, and load level main scene, it's basically just switching between the scenes, and the main scene is where all the gameplay actually happens. So lose script and win script are very, very similar to this, just with a different title. So I won't look at those specifically since they're basically what's going on here. This sphere script gets some things passed in. Oh, I had speed that I didn't end up using, so forget about that. This accelerometer text is just a way to pass what the accelerometer is reading, and we do that right here. We pass that out to the screen just so it's visible and we can see what's going on with that, make sure everything's behaving properly. Speed, which was going to be used in this respect, was just to speed up the acceleration a little bit, because initially when I was playing it was a little bit difficult to ramp up enough speed to knock the block off. So we just added a little bit to it. I did multiply it by 2 to double the speed, or the acceleration rather, but that turned out to be way too fast. So 1.5 I found was a happy medium. This is blocked out so that when I was testing in the simulator I could use the arrow keys, which are a lot easier to control. But that's just, I just comment these out, comment these in if I wanted to switch back and forth and look at some stuff like that. So we can ignore that. This is just, I called it position, but it's basically the change in position, or the force that's going to be added. So we have reading from our input, our accelerometer. We pass in how much is going to move on the X and the Z, based on move horizontal and vertical here. And that's where we're putting it to the text. This rigid body here, adding force is basically just like it sounds, it adds force to the sphere, so it rolls forward. This is a much better way than I was initially looking at, which is just going to be translation, which would move the sphere without any rotation. It wouldn't look normal according to what we're used to in physics. So this add force is definitely the way to go, and that's nice. And this just checks if it's fallen off the platform and it's gotten to a low position of -10, and it does this before the baddie, the enemy block does. Then we load the lose scene level, and lose scene, and we go to that page and you lose the game. Adversely, here, this is very simple script for the baddie. All it does is check, did it go below 10? Yes, it did. You win. So whichever one of these happened first, right here, they will um, they will determine what the outcome actually is. So we let the engine handle all that for us. I suppose I don't have anything really else to show. I did a few things in the rigid body where I altered the mass a little bit, gravity's on. I drug some materials onto these game objects. Yeah, so that's Shun the Non-Believer, and that's how everything works. Thanks.